My name is Jason Gould. This is Dave Johnson. We're from Hogland Learning Center, and we have recently started the transfer from paper charts over to charts on the computer. And today we want to kind of share a practical, telling of what it's been like, all right? Because there's things that you wouldn't think of necessarily when you're flipping over to a digital chart, and we want to kind of share what are some of the things that we've been through on this. So I want to start off here though, have Dave tell you a little bit about HLC.
Yeah, just a little backstory about us. We're the largest provider in Ohio of educational programs serving students with autism. Founded in 2004, originally just one class, and now across all programs we're up to about 300 plus across the Aspire program and other students that we serve on the spectrum.
Specifically, Dave and I are part of the Aspire program at Hogland. The Aspire program is K through 8. We currently have 15 classrooms, we've got 78 students, and it's a replication of the Morningside model that we're doing. And we've been paper charters for about 8 years now. We have all of our students involved in it. Each student has got about 5 to 10 charts that they personally are seeing every day with their practice stuff. And then in addition to that, all of the CBM data is tracked on the charts. The behavior team is now tracking all of their behavior reduction and replacement behaviors on the charts. And we even go so far as to chart the staff performance. So we chart attendance and engagement and all sorts of different things with the staff as well that we're looking at when we're trying to coach up the teams and everything, all right? So we've got a lot of experience doing the chart. So Chartlytics at HLC, we got our first look at it in September of 2014. That's back when we were still calling it Chartalytics, because we didn't even know the name. All right, we were messing it up. Sorry, Dave. We were, it was like a novelty thing. It was like, oh, this is cool, but I've seen this like song and dance before. I've seen, put it on I put it on Excel or whatever. But we played with it some more, realized that it was pretty powerful. And so then we began messing around with some CBM data in October of 2015 on Chartlytics. And we decided we were going to pilot the program in August of 2016 in 2 classrooms, Dave's classroom and another teacher's classroom. And the idea would be that we'll do this for like 2 months, we'll work out the kinks, and then we'll just roll it out to everybody, and it'll be great. But we ultimately had to wait until August of 2017 to go like this program-wide rollout that we've just recently gotten into. And so we're going to kind of share what we've had to do with all this. There's a lot of little kinks and things that have come up, and we thought, this shouldn't be very hard. This is going to be easy, right? Chartlytics was easy to use. The Chartlytics team was great. We liked the people that we were going to be working with them. Our staff was PT minded. They were all charters, and we had funding in place to buy iPads and the equipment that we needed. So this can't be that bad, right? And reality kind of set in here for us, and we realized that we were going to have some issues with technology setup, scalability, and training were the 3 big things that came up as potential roadblocks that we were going to run into. So for starters, the technology setup, the first thing we ran into was just our IT department. You would think that this wouldn't be an issue. I talked to Dave about this in the past. Our IT department was averse to us rolling out all these iPads. They didn't think that it was a good idea. They weren't really enthusiastic about getting more bandwidth set up and getting more access points. And so those were things that we had to get over the hump of just getting the IT department to be on board to support us with this project. We had to come up with a device management system. We had to come up with a plan to get organized with how are we going to, who's going to take care of the devices when there's just like a problem with them. We got to get the IT department to take this on. We were going to have general support issues. What happens when somebody's iPad is frozen or whatever? We got to get the IT department to help us getting those things reset so that we can help the staff with that. And then we ran into some funding restrictions. We had some funky funding issues where we were allowed to buy as many iPads as we wanted for all the kids, but the teachers weren't allowed to use them, all right? Because if the funding was specific to student stuff, this funding is weird. If we order some new curriculum and we order the books, and I want to buy the teacher presentation manual to go with it, I have to buy that with separate money. And it's a kind of a silly way that funding works in Ohio for us, but so we ran into that with how do we get some of the other equipment that we're going to need for the teachers to be able to get this going. So we had to kind of find that money as well. So then we had the scalability deals, starting off with bandwidth. Our bandwidth is going to go way up, the requirements for it. With all, at least that's what we were told, with all of our iPads and stuff. And so we went out and we paid for more bandwidth. But then we realized it was really an access point issue. The IT department had kind of missed on that one, and they just didn't have enough wireless access points throughout the building to get all the iPads onto the internet. So we're still in the process of getting more access points added in, all right? But that was something that we had to plan for with that. We ran into iPad cases. We're back ordered. We're trying to order iPad cases. We came up with a plan to say, let's make sure that we have one color for the iPads that are going to be used for Chartlytics, and we'll have another color for the iPads that are going to have games and stuff on there for the kids for reward time, so we had to figure that out. We had to come up with enough plugs in the rooms to be able to plug everything in. Our rooms didn't have enough power outlets to charge all our iPads, so we had to order power strips and make sure that we were up to fire code and not having extension cords everywhere. And then we had to figure out where we were going to store all these iPads that we were getting, so we were going to have a bunch that were coming in. So these are just little things that you get all excited about this rollout, and these are things that you should think about if you're going to, go to the digital route here.
And so the whole thing brought up a couple of training issues with it. And the first was just our staff training everybody up on identifying and using pinpoints and being able to select them when they're preparing the chart. And a big issue we ran into that we didn't expect when we were starting to train our students up on it were getting them alphanumeric passwords, getting them capital, lowercase. That took a lot more than we expected to train up for them. And also just going in and being able to select which chart they needed to be on for which fluency. And it was more of that stuff that it took our effort to train rather than the dropping itself. And we weren't quite ready for that.
Yeah, the hard part ended up being the easy part, and what we thought would be the easy part ended up being the hard part. Who would have thought, these kids are on iPads all day long, and my gosh, you ask them to sign in and the wheels just fell off. So the big question though then is why do we go digital, right? You see so often there are schools that will say, oh, well, we've got iPads for all the kids. And it's well, why do you have the iPads for the kids? Is it better? Is it more efficient? Is it making learning better? And so those are the advantages. We found lots of those advantages here. We found it, we talked about training being an issue, but it's also been an advantage with Chartlytics. We've been able to train up new teachers. The nature of our business is that we're going to have some staff turnover, and being able to bring in a new classroom mate and have them dropping dots on the chart their very first day correctly and easily, that's a big advantage. New students, we're able to get them going right away. Monitoring has been a big one. We'll talk about that some more. Charting adjustments, we'll hit on that. And then just all the data has been wonderful. We've got a lot more information to look at. And so we're not spending as much time collecting data now. We're spending more time being able to analyze it and make appropriate decisions.
And so talking about some of the advantages as far as training, the one thing we noticed is how quickly we can get new staff charting using the charts and new students using the charts. So we have a video here. This is Chloe. This is her first day at Hogland. This is the first dot that she has dropped. Let me see if I can.
Okay, so this Excel means how many you got correct. So how many you got correct? So you start with 7. And then these cells, how many errors are, so how many you have? Nope, just like the one in. Okay, upside down. Good, and we were at how much time were we on? 30 seconds. So we're going to delete this 1. So which one do we need to be in? Hours of answer. Good. There you go. So what we typed in there? Yep, go for it. 3, 0. And it's the correct day. The correct day, like there you put this, you have the calendar. And today's the 11th. And then we're going to pick a measurement. Okay. Close it. And then we have our first what? Our first dot. Okay?
And from that now, you can see, so Chloe, first day, dropped her first dot, and that's her chart now, so still right away, just hitting the ground running. So, you know, some of those early sessions that we might have been spent still teaching it, we were already, you know, hitting the ground running then and starting to make gains in that area.
Yeah, you know, we would normally spend a week or two with the new student, making sure they know all the conventions first, and then we could get into the math facts. But now we can kind of get going with both, and we can, you know, they're still going to learn about the chart. They're still going to learn about the learning features, what to do, but the speed at which we can get a student up and going, and we're, you know, our kids are coming in behind already, so every minute counts, not just the days. So some other advantages is the monitoring. You know, we have, it's easy for us to monitor our students here. Dave, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so that's one, it's a chart I showed yesterday, but so a student that was new to us, and from Florida, I was able to log in, check, and see how he did on the day that I was missing, just to make sure everything was keeping up.
Yeah, so we've got, you know, yesterday's dot, you know, right there.
And it was really neat to be able to check in on that from, you know, from afar, to still be, you know, engaged in my classroom.
And then from a teacher standpoint, you know, I'm able to go through, I've got some, we've got some interns that work with us, and we're able to quickly scroll through all the charts for all the kids very quickly. And so this is like a snapshot of 6 of our classrooms. And, you know, what we've got going on here is the areas that are there we go. The areas that are in the purple are ones where that teacher doesn't have a goal line for that student. The ones that are in the yellow are where the students are a certain number of dots below the line. So I can very quickly take a look at this and I can say, all right, I know who I've got to go address with on coaching issues or with checking on a student. If I see that there's like a trend in a class, you know, over here, this reading class, you know, on Monday, because this was filled out yesterday while we were here. This is updated as that, and so Monday I'll be heading into this reading class to figure out what's going on. That's probably, that teacher might be overwhelmed right now. There's a reason that they've got multiple kids that are below the line. We've got to find that out. But then I will also possibly go in to look at this classroom and say, oh, okay, you know, there's one below the line. I'm going to go just see what's going on with that student and figure it out from there. This allows me to also track specific pinpoints. I can see how, you know, different teachers are going. So we can look at lots of different stuff. And we can do it quickly where I'm not running around trying to collect everybody's paper charts.
And then, so some of the advantages that I've had, just because my perspective of this is, you know, I'm a classroom teacher, so the advantages just from a classroom level is just how quickly the students are able to, you know, have autonomy with their own charts. So things like putting in phase change lines, you know, putting their own acceleration lines in, being able to mess around with the floor, so not being tied into maybe the conventional 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 45 in a minute. So being able to do some different types of interventions based on the floors. And the one function the kids really have enjoyed, and it's made it a lot easier for them to be able to identify their own goals, is the zoom function. So when they log in for the day and they get on their chart, the kids can be pretty independent. As they zoom in, they see where their line's hitting, and are able to identify their own goals. And that makes it a lot easier than when it was on paper. Because a lot of times, you know, it's smashed in there, and you know, some of our kids had a little bit more difficulties with the goal identification.
Yeah. Well, we had a lot of kids dropping their own dots on paper, but that's kind of where it was ending with a lot of the kids also. That was just dropping the dots. The teachers were still having to come in and draw the phase change lines. We're still having to write the notes on the chart. We're still having to draw the acceleration lines, especially when it was like, oh, I want to do a times, you know, 1.75 with this student. Those were tricky ones for the kids some of the kids to be able to do, and now the kids can do that. If I ask a kid to put on a times 1.05, like, you know, the kid can snap, it's on there. So that's been a big advantage for us.
And anecdotally, I feel like my students this year have been far more engaged in their chart and their progress because they're so autonomous with it that they get really excited to track some of that stuff.
Right. Now, we still need, there's still, you know, Chartlytics is always, one thing that we've noticed that it changes. It's always, you know, in a good way. And we should say real quick, we don't work for Chartlytics, or, I mean, I know Rick and Dave through this, we're not getting paid by Chartlytics or anything like that. There's no,
I have that envelope for you.
Okay. I'll just keep talking, maybe get bigger as I get up here. You know, so it is always getting better. There are some things that aren't available in Chartlytics yet. With the helping of the decision making, because the chart is great, but the chart, you know, if you're just dropping dots, you've got to be able to say, okay, how do I analyze this data? What do I do with it next? And so we still have a lot of support system for our staff. We've got, you know, our fluency decision making rules. We have these little job aids for the staff where they're able to, you know, figure out what to do for different types of learning pictures to develop. We've got all these different learning pictures that our kids helped us develop with, so they can remember what pictures what and what that means. And so this is all help that we still need to provide, but the fact that we can focus on the decision making now more and less on the conventions is a big advantage so far. So the big question then is it better, right? Because, you know, at one point paper was the great technology because we were moving from like slate boards, and, you know, at one point, you know, moving off the cave wall was a big deal, right? And so is this, and you don't want to do it just for the sake of doing it. It seems like I've seen schools where it's the whole point is that they've got the computers, but like, why do they? What are the computers making things better? And today, at this point, you know, we're still early, but at this point, it has felt better to us. It's been easier. Certainly made my job as an assessment coordinator much quicker and simpler, and I can be in more places at once. Dave, from a teacher standpoint, what do you think?
Yeah, it's made it easier to manage the classroom, to quickly go through, and plus with our kids sometimes the paper charts were a liability in behaviors of concern. Sometimes, you know, kids would start going to the chart, no, don't. So yeah. It's nice having that as a backup.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to rip an iPad in half, for sure. So that's that. Anybody have any questions, comments for us, or anything like that? No? All right, thank you guys.